Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of A Soul Sanctuary with Rabbi Esther, and I am here to tell you all about Shavuot. But I'm not just going to tell you about what Shavuot means traditionally. I am going to tell you how you can use Shavuot to romanticize your Judaism. What does it mean to romanticize anything? There's a little bit of a social media trend to romanticize your life, to make your life more beautiful, more pleasant, more compelling, more interesting for you, not for anyone else, not for a romantic partner, but just because life is beautiful and worth living. Now in Judaism we have a similar idea to this called Hiddur mitzvah, the beautification of the mitzvah. And that's the idea that you make anything related to your Jewishness a beautiful experience worth pursuing with care and love and attention. That is kind of the frame that I want to use for this episode of romanticizing your Jewishness through the festival of Shavuot. Let's start from the top, however. What is Shavuot and why is Shavuot so neglected? Poor Shavuot. Shavuot is one of the three pilgrims' festivals mentioned in the Torah, the Shalosh Regalim, together with Pesach, Passover, and Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles or the Feast of Booths. Unlike Pesach and Sukkot, which have really distinctive rituals associated with it, like the eating of matzah, the seder, the building of Sukkot, little booths which you decorate and dine and sometimes sleep in, Shavuot is kind of orphaned. It doesn't have that many distinctive rituals to it. The other festivals, Pesach and Sukkot, last 7 or 8 days, depending on your custom, while Shavuot only lasts 1 or 2 days. That all leads up to the idea that Shavuot is somehow less important or less compelling because it's short and it's kind of tucked away between these other two major cycles of the calendar year. However, my friends, Shavuot is awesome. Shavuot has 2 entry points into it. The agricultural entry point, the first fruits harvest celebrated in the land of Israel, and the historical or the theological entry point. The main thrust of Shavuot, in a traditional sense, is therefore theological. There are a few recurring themes to the festival. The idea of covenant is of course central, a sacred contract between a deity and its community of believers, in this case, the God of Israel and the Jewish people. So covenant is very much central to the celebration of Shavuot. But also choice. The Israelites have to bathe themselves and prepare themselves and center themselves for this momentous experience of receiving revelation in their lives. Then there is commitment. They are also asked to say na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear, to commit to the terms of the covenant. And in some ways, Shavuot is very much a paradigm for conversion, and it's kind of the convert's holiday. There is a parallelism going on where the Talmud interprets the Israelites' preparation, the washing of their clothes, and by extension, their bathing as a mikveh, as a ritual bath, as they collectively stood at Sinai and chose to be Jews, and later actually becomes part of the halakha of conversion, where the convert immerses in a ritual bath and experiences their own personal revelation. And lastly, there is very much the bridal imagery of Shavuot, which also links up with this idea of the spiritual mikveh, the immersion into the purifying and living waters so that you can commit to your marriage partner, i.e. the divine. So Shavuot is kind of like a fulcrum between the particularist part of the calendar, Hanukkah, Purim, and Pesach, where we as a people really establish ourselves, fight for our survival and our independence, and the universalist part of the calendar, which is Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, where we really open the field to the divine experience, to teshuvah, to repentance, to returning to God, to returning to our truer selves, and having a hope that all humankind will do this. And Shavuot is the fulcrum that sits right in between these two polarities, where we are saying this is an in-between stage, somewhere between the elopement and the engagement of God and Israel as they leave Egypt, as God rescues them with a strong hand like a passionate lover from their duress, and also glancing ahead at the consummation of this spiritual marriage between God and the Jewish people through the high holiday season. So if you imagine a continuum with the elopement of Pesach and the consummation of the high holidays, then Shavuot sits right in the middle with the betrothal and the wedding at Mount Sinai. And is there a finer ketubah than our Torah, which we receive at Shavuot? And there are loads and loads and loads of midrashim in the rabbinic tradition, rabbinic legends that really dig into this marital metaphor. And that's why I think it is a great festival to romanticize your Judaism around Shavuot. So what does that actually mean? I'm going to be discussing very briefly, or as briefly as I can, 4 instructional texts that dig into the essence of Shavuot in different ways for you to think about how you want to recommit to your Jewishness. So let's get stuck in. Text number 1 is from the book of Exodus 19:4, the Revelation account. ואתם ראיתם אשר עשיתי למצרים, ואעשה אתכם על כנפי נשרים, ואביא אתכם אליי. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. So this already establishes the intimacy. Why eagle's wings? Why kanfei nesharim? Because this is an image of tenderness, an image of God redeeming us, not just to free us from our duress under Egyptian bondage, but to say, I'm going to do this tenderly, like a mother bird takes care of its young. And that already establishes the very intimacy that we want to see in order to romanticize our Judaism. What are the things that you experience in your life about being tender in your Judaism? What practices or beliefs or communal experiences in Judaism give you that loving care and tenderness? In other words, how do you feel cherished and protected by your Jewishness? The text continues by saying, Ushmartem et briti והייתם לי סגולה מכל העמים. And if you observe my covenant, then you will be like a treasured possession among all the peoples. Now there is a lot to unpack there about universalism and particularism. I'm not going to do that. I have a video on that I will link below. It's one of my earliest videos that I made for this channel. Just think about being a segula, a treasured possession. How do you feel treasured by your Judaism? And in return, what do you treasure about your Judaism? What is it about your Jewishness that you hold close to your heart, that gives you a sense of deep belonging and meaning, that is special and unique, like a little jewel in a beautiful box? And how can you bring out that jewel and let it shine as the light catches it? Text number 2 is also from the book of Exodus, going back a little bit in time, and this is the idea of reciprocal covenants. I will be your God and you will be my people. ולקחתי אתכם לי לעם, והייתי לכם לאלוהים, וידעתם כי אני אדוני. And I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God, and you shall know that I am Adonai. So what does this refer to? A relationship isn't just about tenderness and care. That is a starting point. But in order to escalate the relationship to the next level, you need reciprocity. What can you give to the divine, or your tradition, or your community, or your sense of Jewish self, or all of the above? And what can it give that back to you? How can you enter into a deeper level of engagement and commitment with your Judaism? Ask not what Judaism can do for you, but what you can do for your Judaism. And in loving and romantic and caring and beautiful ways in your life, how does that promise play out? Text number 3. This is a text from the book of Ruth, which we read for Shavuot. And the book of Ruth is an amazing book. It's a short book, it's narrative form, and it's very accessible. So if you're new to the study of Jewish scripture, I actually highly recommend it because it's just so beautiful and very romantic. It tells the story of Naomi and her sons settled in the land of Moab when there was a famine in the land of Israel, and they sojourned there for many years and survived the famine until the sons got married to Moabite wives and eventually died. Now what you need to know is that the Torah has some hostility towards the Moabites because the Moabites did not welcome the Jewish immigration into Canaan out of Egypt. So there is a complicated relationship there that the book of Ruth really seeks to challenge and re-envision. So after her sons die, Naomi decides that there's nothing left for her in the land of Moab, and she actually wants to return to Israel. So she takes her daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, with her. Now, Orpah realizes that, she is not an Israelite, and she'd rather stay with her kin in Moab. And that's really okay. And Naomi, at the boundary between Israel and Moab, bids her farewell. Ruth, however, does want to go with Naomi to Israel. And not only that, she wants to pledge undying loyalty, not just to Naomi, but to the God of Israel and the people of Israel, and thereby becomes the model for conversion to Judaism. And there is this stunning passage at which she pledges that loyalty. And this is our text. But Ruth replied, "Do not urge me to leave you, to turn back and not follow you. Ki el asher telchi elech, uva asher talini alin, va'amech ami, ve'elohaich Elohai. For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." So this is not just a moment of tenderness and reciprocity. It's actually a moment of choice and covenant. If you would have to choose Judaism for yourself, would you choose it? And if you would decide to choose it, what are the things you care deeply about in your Jewish life, in the life of our people, of our community, of your relationship with our God? Do you deeply care about? And once you've chosen it, how can you fall in love with it? I don't think we always talk enough about love in the Jewish tradition. It's definitely there all over our texts, all over our liturgy. Ahava rabba ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu, with a great love you have loved us, eternal our God. Sometimes we Jews get a little shy talking about it. So I actually invite you into a heart space of love. Ruth really loved Naomi, and she really loved Naomi's people and Naomi's God. And eventually down the line, the story, spoiler alert, does have a happy ending. She would come to love Boaz and become the foremother of King David, and by extension, the foremother of the Messiah, of Moshiach, whenever the Messianic era is upon us. So this love is not just a love of tenderness and virtue, it is a redemptive love. How can your choice for Judaism be a redemptive choice? What in our world can you make better? Can you redeem through being Jewish and bringing your love to your Jewishness? Our last text, text number 4, is from Hosea 2:21-22. And it is the text that we recite when we wear tefillin. When we wrap the tefillin around our fingers, that is when we recite that text. And it is a beautiful text of betrothal. Ve'erastich li le'olam, ve'erastich li v'tzedek, uv'mishpat, uv'chesed, uv'rachamim. And I will espouse you forever. I will espouse you with righteousness and justice, and with goodness and mercy. And I will espouse you with faithfulness, and then shall you be devoted to the eternal. Or alternatively, you can translate it with, and then you shall know your God, which again denotes this quality of intimacy. In biblical Hebrew, knowing is always an intimate knowing, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So here are my thoughts on this text. After we have been putting the building blocks in place, tenderness, reciprocity, choice, and commitment, the outflow of all of these things should be the virtues that are redemptive. And the prophet Hosea identifies these virtues in this text. Tzedek, righteousness; mishpat, justice; chesed, loving kindness; rachamim, compassion. How can we manifest these things into our world as Jews for each other, for ourselves, for the entire human family, for our planetary family, and beyond? What are your motivational values as a Jewish person? What is your mission and your purpose as a Jewish person? When you stand at Mount Sinai again for Shavuot with all the generations of the past and all the generations yet to be, what are the values that make you say, I am getting married again. I'm renewing my vows and taking this on for myself and for the world. So the last part of this video will have some fun and whimsical and practical tips for how you can romanticize your Jewishness for Shavuot. Given that Shavuot is the fulcrum between the earlier holidays of Hanukkah, Purim, and Pesach, and the later holidays of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, you can very much use it as a bridge to build between now and the high holidays. You can already start thinking about the high holidays a little bit in advance. It's about 14 weeks away, so we still have time, but use that luxury of time. Here is tip number 1. Romanticize your Judaism. Renew your vows. Write yourself a letter that you will open at Yom Kippur with your thoughts about how you would like to renew your Jewish vows. What do you love about your Judaism? And how can you fall in love with it again? And I think on a solemn day like Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur's solemnity has a deep place for deep joy, but it can sometimes be hard to access that. And I think writing that letter to yourself over Shavuot, to read to yourself for Yom Kippur, will be a really fruitful exercise as you sit on Yom Kippur to write these loving words that you have written for yourself. Tip number 2. How can you fall in love with the divine? Identify where and how you experience the divine in nature, prayer, song, relationship, etc. Then seek that out and cultivate it. If it is in nature that you feel your connection to God, seek that out. If it's through music, play that music and really relish it, etc. Tip number 3. Think of 1, 2, 3 mitzvot that are concrete that you can commit to. Maybe it's saying the Shema when you go to bed at night. Maybe it's giving a little extra tzedakah. Maybe it's refraining from eating something that the dietary laws prescribe. Maybe it's learning a little Torah. Maybe it's visiting a person who is vulnerable and needs a little extra love and attention. Maybe it is doing an act of justice in the world. Whatever it is, think about 1, 2, 3 new mitzvot that you can take on during this period leading from Shavuot to the high holiday period. Tip number 4. Buy yourself flowers. Shavuot is the time for flowers, absolutely. So buy yourself Shavuot flowers and luxuriate in that experience. Make your home beautiful and bright. Tip number 5. Host a Shavuot tea party. I will link a video down below to the tea party that I organized for my family last Shavuot. I'm hoping to do it again this time. And we're going to keep it low-key because I'm also organizing a pretty large Shavuot event for my congregation. So I have a lot of delicious things that I want to serve, and it's really okay if they're bought from the store this year. But I really look forward to my traditional Shavuot tea party. Tip number 6, study Torah. Commit to studying a new piece of text in preparation for the high holidays. This could be anything. We interpret Torah in the broadest sense of the word. It could be a Jewish novel, it could be poetry, it could be a classical, biblical or rabbinic text, it could be a self-help book from a Jewish perspective. Whatever it is that speaks to your soul, commit to studying that piece of text, and you can start for your Tikkun Leil Shavuot on the evening of Shavuot when we study Torah. And last tip, number 7, reconnect and recommit. I've talked about that a lot already, but what are you reconnecting and recommitting to? Allow yourself to fall in love with your Jewishness, with Judaism, with the divine, with our tradition, and with our community. It is a joy to be Jewish, and I really want to emphasize #JewishJoy. Sometimes it can feel challenging to be Jewish, especially in a time of increasing anti-Semitism, especially if the experience of being Jewish is isolating because maybe your Jewish community is small, or maybe you're one of the only people who is exploring Judaism or practicing Judaism in your family, in your area, or in your community. It goes without saying that if you are not officially Jewish yet, but you're on a Jewish journey of exploration and discovery and increasing commitment, whether that's exploring Judaism on your own or through an official conversion program, this video just as much applies to you, and welcome to the tribe. May you have a very sweet and beautiful and romantic Shavuot, with every imaginable earthly and heavenly delight as we stand at the foot of the mountain to receive the best wedding gift of all, our beautiful, inspiring, and holy Torah given through God's love. Thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe, and let me know if you have thoughts about what I should do next. Wishing you the happiest of Chag Sameachs, from my bait to your bait, in this Zman Matan Torateinu, the season of the giving of our Torah. Thank you for watching. Bye.